Hey everybody, what's up? I'm John with The Wealthy Sailor and welcome back to my channel. Today is a very important day because we're going to be talking about dividend stocks, which you probably got a good idea of when you checked out the thumbnail. So we're going to discuss what they are and how they work and why I like them so much. We're not really going to go over specific picks of stocks. I feel like that's a separate video and that has to do with a lot more research that I feel like you need to know what they are before we can go into that. So number one, what is a dividend? A dividend is when you get paid for an investment. So even loans, sometimes the interest payment is considered a dividend. But in this specific instance, we're talking about stocks. So basically, as you buy a portion of the company, a very small portion of the company, and as it rises and falls, you can make money when you sell them. However, there's another way of making money off it. It's called dividends. Most companies do them because they have so much cash that they want to reward loyal owners. They basically want to create a reward for you not selling off their stock once it goes up, because if their stock's going up and you sell when it's high, then it could actually cause the stock to go back down. So this is an incentive for you to hold on to it through the ups and the downs. Now, an additional reason that companies pay out dividends is if they're not expecting any particular growth through a certain amount of time, they might pay out dividends in order to keep you invested in the company. The idea is that perhaps they're not expecting to grow, which means their stock's going to stay at the same price, but even though they're not growing, they're still going to pay you just for being a loyal shareholder. Think of it sort of like you're loaning the company money and then they're paying you interest. And dividends can range from all different amounts. The smallest one that I know of that I currently hold is like 1.3%, and then some go all the way up to like 12%. So it's definitely not a bad deal. Now, the highest paying ones are usually, there's a reason they're the highest paying ones. There might be something that's happened, or they're expecting a particularly bad year, so they're trying to retain their shareholders. But generally, I find sticking around 6-7% isn't a bad strategy. So the interesting thing is a company by offering dividends can then inflate its own stock price, because the idea is that if a company announces that they're going to be giving out a certain percentage of dividends or a certain amount of dividend, because usually dividends are measured in a dollar amount, they give a certain amount of money per share. And they usually announce in the beginning of the fiscal year. So even if their stock doubles, the dividend is not necessarily going to double, but you know in advance of what they're going to do. So it's always good. Well, if they announce a particularly high dividend, then it'll cause people to buy up that stock because they want the high dividends, which will then cause a shortage of their stock and cause the prices to inflate. So some companies use that, and it's not a bad system. Personally, I think if you're going to invest in dividend stocks, you should kind of make peace with the fact that you're going to hold on that stock through sort of a long period of time. Like, you're there just to collect the interest. That's what your game plan is. Now, this can be very beneficial for you because if you get something like Apple, obviously, I think Apple pays like 2% dividends. I'm not really sure. You're getting the dividends, but you're also getting the inflation of the price. So you're making money in two different ways. It's sort of like when you buy a house, and you rent it out, not only are you collecting rent, but the house itself is increasing in value. So you're making money two different ways. You can either sell the house or continue to rent it out. And that's basically how a dividend stock works if you buy an individual stock. Now, some things to look out for if you're getting involved in dividend stock investing. Number one, sometimes companies just skip a quarter, or they skip a payout period. It depends on how the company sets out their dividend payouts. Some are monthly, some are yearly, but if they say 10%, then it's going to be 10% total that year, or so even if you're getting paid every month, it's not going to be more money overall. So you want to look out and make sure that they're actually paying every single time they say they're going to pay. There's one particular stock that I like, and they pay like 11% dividends, and it's a REIT, which I've been interested in getting more involved in. However, they missed a whole quarter like 2 years ago. So I don't really consider them as safe of an investment as like Coca-Cola, who might be paying a lot less of a dividend, but they've been paying it for 100 years. So it's tried and true, and I trust the company as a whole. Which kind of brings me to my next point, is that companies aren't required to pay dividends. They should, and it makes them look bad by their stockholders if they don't, but they're not required to. So a company, you could buy into a company now, it's paying huge dividends, and next year, for whatever reason, they just decide they're not going to pay dividends anymore. And that's really up to the company. So that's why I think like having a company that's been paying for 20, 30, 40 years consistently without ever missing any is a great sign. Also, since dividend stocks are sort of a long-term thing, you definitely want to make sure the company's going to be around for a while. So be wary of like companies that are offering like 15% dividends, because you have to wonder, how can they afford to pay so much, or why are they paying so much? So I'm slowly moving my Robinhood holdings all towards dividend stocks. That's going to be my main focus from now on for my personal stuff. Now my IRA, my 401k, all that stuff, that's still being handled by managers. That's not something that I'm messing with. But I mean my own personal funds, I definitely am trying to move more towards dividends. If nothing else, I have to say that there's something almost like addictive every time a quarter passes and you check and you suddenly have a bunch of money in there that you didn't put in there yourself. They award it you, so now you're like, oh, I have play around money. So I usually use it just to buy more stock of whatever. If you're interested in dividend investing, it's actually pretty easy to get started, especially on Robinhood, which is my... So full disclosure, I do not get paid by Robinhood to talk about them. The reason I talk about them so much is because if you use the link that I have below, both you and I get a free stock. So it's an investing platform. So if you don't feel comfortable investing in stocks or something yourself, then I definitely suggest you just call up your bank or another investment, a big investment house, and have them put a money manager in charge of your stuff. But if you want to get involved in stocks yourself and you still haven't gotten a Robinhood, please click the link below. We both get something free, and it's a good day all around. So if you want to go ahead and get started, Robinhood's a pretty good platform for it, but it's not the only platform for it. I was messing around with M1 Finance, which again, I don't get paid to promote them or anything, but they also seem pretty good. The one thing I like about M1 Finance over Robinhood is M1 Finance lets you do fractional purchases. So like, let's say you want to buy Berkshire Hathaway, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars a share. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can buy, $20 worth of a share. Robinhood doesn't let you do it unless you qualify, and I haven't gone through the process of qualifying for it yet, so I don't have any first-hand knowledge of it. But what you can do is, if you're on Robinhood, you can actually check in the menu as you're searching stocks for dividend stocks, and they will give you the news and everything about them and stuff, and it will tell you if it's got a buy, a sell, or a hold order on it, or at least what the recommendation for it is, which the recommendations take with a grain of salt because they're all mathematically computed. And then you get your money straight into your Robinhood account as cash, and then you actually get a little notification on it, which you can then use to buy more stock or maybe buy a new stock, whatever you want to do. Now, Robinhood also has dividend yielding REITs, which is a real estate investment trust, which, if you guys don't understand how that works, it's like a bunch of people pool their money together to invest in real estate. But it doesn't go as far as to be like a property management company or anything like that. So they're called REITs. And the other thing that Robinhood, and I think they just got this, guy I definitely haven't seen before, is they start to have funds now that are dividend funds. They have the S&P dividend fund, which I think is yielding around 6%, and then they have the Vanguard dividend fund. So if you don't know how to pick individual stocks or anything like that, then that's always a good thing to use. And like I said, I think the S&P one's yielding 6%. So I mean, that's not bad for something that is supposed to climb and yield dividends. It's like a win-win. I personally would think that that's a good thing to do. Again, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just saying what I would do. So don't take my word as if I'm like an expert, because I'm not. I'm just a guy who's trying to do better myself financially. So for those of you who've been keeping up with the videos, know that I'm trying to get to a net worth of $500,000 by the end of 2021. That's my goal. Now, of that, I want $50,000 of that to be invested in dividend yielding stocks, either individual stocks or index funds or the REITs. But I want to be managing and collecting $50,000 off of it, because at the end of the year at 6%, that's $3,000 that I would make for doing nothing. And I have to admit, the idea of sitting around and getting paid to do nothing is extremely appealing to me. So I hope you found this video very helpful. I definitely had a lot of fun researching it. Give me a like, a subscribe, comment, whatever, especially if you have any ideas, or if you want to discuss about any dividend stocks that you like. then I'll totally talk to you about everything because I'm still learning, as I'm sure we all are. So thank you for watching, and keep saving.